Unlike the last speech I gave, where I talked about the leadership assessment, where I scored about the same on each type of leadership, when I took the assessment regarding my communication style, there was a definitive answer. My communication style is analytical. So what does that mean? It means I like things that are precise, exact. I like to analyze things. I like things to be logical. I like certainty. And of course, my wife's the same. Not. If you want to hear about something our family has done, you definitely want to hear her version of it. It's much more entertaining. And I thought this morning I would tell first my version of my run-in with the law, and then give her version, my version. We lived in Southern California and played volleyball in the evenings and on the weekends. But in the summertime, we wanted to play later. When it got dark, we couldn't play because the pole there had been destroyed. So I was looking for a solution. I noticed along the freeways that light poles get knocked down. So I went to the Caltrans office and I asked them, what do you do with these poles that get knocked down? They said, we junk them. Okay. The next time I saw one of these poles, I called the principal of the school who played volleyball with us, went and borrowed my father-in-law's truck, and together we went to pick up their junk. We loaded it on the truck, secured it, started to drive less than 1 mile to the school, and the California Highway Patrol pulled up along behind us. They arrested us, turned us over to the local police, and we had to do the fingerprints and the whole 9 yards. On the way there, I told the officers the whole story. They said, don't worry about it. You'll be laughing about it in a week. Well, it turns out that laugh had to wait a couple months. After I got out, I called Caltrans to see if we could work something out. They said, they don't care about the details. They have so much problem with theft, they're going to prosecute. And because the price of the pole was over $400, grand theft, which means I had to get a lawyer, which for both of us, and I felt responsible saying it was my idea, so $3,000 for that. We had a lot of ups and downs over the next 6 weeks or so. Finally, we got a court date and met with the assistant district attorney. I explained to her the whole situation. By the end of it, she's apologizing all over the place. It never should have gone this far. So the court record reads, arrested grand theft felony, dismissed in the interest of justice. My wife's version. We lived in Southern California with friends. We played a lot of volleyball with them, and their kids would play also at the school. We wanted to play later in the evenings, so Steve thought he could figure out a solution, but I didn't know how he could do it because it's at the school, it's their property. But one day he came home and said, I found a light pole, we can use it volleyball. And she asked, will they let you put it there? Oh, I don't think it'll be a problem. He needed a truck to use, and my dad had a truck. So yeah, I agreed to ask my dad, can you use the truck? So we used the truck, called the principal of the school, together they went to pick up the pole. And when they got there and got arrested, that's where things really changed for us. Actually, after he had left, I was waiting for him to come back and waiting for him to come back. Finally, I went over to the principal's house and talked to his wife. Both of us wondering, why is it taking so long? A couple hours later, get a phone call from Steve. We're in jail. You're kidding. No, I'm not. What are you talking about? Well, apparently the police were watching us when we took the pole, and they came over shortly after we had loaded it on the truck. They asked me, is that your pole? I started to answer them. They wouldn't let me answer. They handcuffed us, put us in the back of the patrol car. And the principal of the school this is her talking again, had asthma. Being put in the back of a patrol car, windows up, sunny Southern California, hot summer day, he started wheezing continuously. Back to the phone call. I reported to everybody in the room, they're in jail. The kids had a quite different reaction than I had. They started jumping around and laughing and saying, our dads are in jail, our dads are in jail. Steve said, you're going to need to get a bail bondsman to get us out of here. So I called another friend that played volleyball with us. And he was willing and kind enough to give us $300 to be able to get them out. So then my friend had to go with me to look for bail bondsman, not the best part of town, at night. I can't tell you how scared I was. But eventually they got released. Now, although they were released, my dad's truck had been impounded. You should have seen my dad's face when we had to tell him his truck was impounded. A few days later, we were able to go get the truck. And you're not going to believe this, but the pole was still on the truck when they gave it back to him. Steve figured he'd tell him to take it off. He didn't want to get arrested again for the same thing. Do you see the difference in the way we tell the story? I think it's important to realize that filters are involved regardless of what kind of speech communication style we have. Because of the things you've heard and what you can see people around me have to go with, you may need to have more compassion for Connor and for my wife that have to deal with that. But you might save some compassion for me, because I have to deal with that brain that won't stop analyzing, criticizing, looking through the whole thing 24/7, 365 days a year. Next year, 366. It's important to filter these things. And I'm grateful because of being able to use that filter. I've got a marriage that's still growing after 45 years. And I'm grateful to have conversations every week with my grown children where using that filter also pays off. It reminds me of a plaque we have in our home. My wife says she didn't get it because of me, but anyway, it's at our home, and it says, just because it pops into my head doesn't mean it needs to come out my mouth.